All right, I see us in the Facebook group. Happy Thursday, pros. Welcome to Pro Power Hour. My name is Chris Weldon, one of the community managers with Housecall Pro. And this is, like I said, this is Power Hour. It's something we do every Thursday, right around this time, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. We started doing this earlier this year. Back in May, we started this as kind of a training session for you to attend, an onboarding session. Really what we do every week is we take a feature or a couple of different features. We talk about the benefits to it, why it might fit for you or your business. And then we've partnered with onboarding, specifically with Phil, to do a live demo and take your questions every week. And so we've covered a lot of ground so far. We've talked about, we started this talking about service plans. We talked about pipeline last week. We've talked about so many things in between. So if you're seeing this for the first time, we do have a library of recordings and past sessions. Or if you missed some weeks and you want to go back and watch something, highly encourage you to. All of our recordings are on YouTube, on Facebook, and in our help center, in our Housecall Pro Help Center. And we're open to your suggestions. So if there's something we haven't covered yet and you want us to do it soon, let us know. We're happy to take those requests. Excited about today. We kind of talked about estimates a little while back. We talked about making multi-options. And so today we're finally, I guess, doing the rest of it, talking a little bit about estimates on jobs. That's something new that came out this year. So we can get into it. If you're on Facebook, comments are open. Lauren and I will be in there. We'll be able to take your questions or pass them to Phil. Otherwise, Phil, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, sounds good. Hello, everybody again. Good to see you all. And yeah, today we're going to be working and talking about estimates. As long as I've been here, I mean, estimates has been a core feature within Housecall, and we continue to make progress and improvements to estimates to better fit needs of you all as our pros. So yeah, some of this might be pretty familiar to you. If not, you might learn a couple of new things here as well. And we'll kind of tie in a couple of different things just based on, as I was preparing for today, I saw some of our questions. Some of it might take us a little bit off of the estimate path, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So as usual, we'll start with a slide deck and just kind of present you all with some information about what we're going to go over today. And then I'll pull up my account and we will go over some of these things in real time. So let's start off with our deck here. And first thing that we are going to talk about is the estimate settings. Now, every time I do an intro call with one of my new accounts that comes to me, estimate settings is really one of the first things we talk about. We kind of go through making sure the entire account is set up correctly, and I want to make sure that as you are setting up your account, that you do set up your estimates and your invoices the way that you want. So within your account settings, there is a specific place for estimates, and the next button underneath it is going to be customer view. That is going to pull up the screen that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, but within the account settings is where we can set up those global settings. So here's a couple of them just to point out and highlight a few of them. There is the details section where we are able to see add or remove estimate date or the message on the invoice, how that particular estimate is going to be viewed. We do have email optimization so that when it does get sent out to a customer via email, it looks nice and pretty on their email. If you still have customers that are old school and want to get them mailed to you, we do have a format to set it up to be optimized for envelopes. So when you fold it up in the little clear area, it will have your company name and your address and all your information. Other things that we can add or remove is the business name or the logo. Typically, when we've set up the accounts, another one of the first things I do is make sure you all have your logo on your account because then it will fall onto all of your documents, such as estimates. There is the option for technician name. I work with a lot of companies. I feel like in the past, not too many people like doing this, but as more and more people I've met frequently, probably within the last year and a half, absolutely love this. Mostly I like to tie it to as it gives a way to remind your customers of who was out there helping you, as a review link may be sent to them in the future, prompting them to leave a review on who helped them. So then there's also customer display name and company name. We will talk about that. Every time we do put a customer into the system, I have run into some pros that say, why isn't their name popping up on the invoice or the estimate? The reason is because they're leaving the display field blank. And we will take a look at that to make sure we all know what I'm talking about. Now for the services and materials section, you do have the ability, I'm sure we're all familiar with seeing the line item name, the description, quantity, unit price is usually something we see when we are actually looking at the preview of the estimate or the invoice, and the line items amount and line item subtotal. Now, I've worked with a lot of people. We'll take a look at how we can customize this a bit, but I've worked with people where they just want to show a subtotal. So they can go ahead and remove that line item name, that description, that quantity, the unit price, and just simply have the subtotal. Every business is different. Customize it the way you want. Now, as I've preached before in a couple of our past sessions, and how I tell everybody when they are first setting up their estimates and invoices in the defaults in their account settings, is that those are your defaults, but every time before we send off an estimate or an invoice, we do have the ability to make changes to that particular estimate or invoice before we send it off. So that way, if you have specific customers that wanted a specific style, or if you want to just simply tailor it a little bit more towards your customer, you can certainly do that. Every time before you send off an estimate or an invoice, again, you have the ability to make changes to that one. One thing that we've pretty much had in the past, and as you're going to see, some of what we're going to talk about today is to kind of remove kind of the back and forth of the converting from estimates to jobs and jobs to estimates. Before, I'm sure people are familiar with this convert to estimate. That is generally what I've had to coach people that really go out there for a work order, and before, if they're going to be doing something with like a big ticket item or a big piece of machinery, typically they want to get an approval before they actually start doing the work. So what we've done in the past is that we create that job. That way the technician can go out there, we can still track their time, and when they are actually out there, they can go ahead and write up the estimate on the job itself and then convert it to an estimate. That way we can go ahead and get the customers to go ahead and approve it. And we get that approval, that we can then copy it back over to a job. Now you're going to see is we did kind of fix this up a little bit to make it a little bit more streamlined. However, this option is still available. And I still bring this up to, again, a lot of accounts that I've worked with in the past where they generally start out with work orders and then make estimates kind of on a case-by-case basis. So a couple of options with the conversions is copy estimate to job, which I'm sure we're all familiar with. Every time we complete an estimate, the last button on the little I guess, railway, pipeline, whatever you want to call it. At the very end, it says copy estimate to job. That will turn our estimate into a work order / job. There is multi-option estimates to jobs. So for that, we've shown before is that on estimates, you do have the ability to create several different options. For those of you who are familiar with our old sales proposal tool, we kind of disbanded the original sales proposal tool and morphed it into estimates with options. And so we will take a look at that when we demo as well. I'm sure we've covered this in the past, but we will do a little refresher on it just to make sure, again, we're all on the same page. There is an option to copy job to new invoice. So whether it is a estimate or whether it is an invoice, if we ever do want to copy the information we have on a particular invoice, we can copy it on over to either a new estimate or a new job. And there's also job to estimate conversion, which we've already kind of discussed here just based on the graphic. But again, if you deal mostly with work orders first or really dive into jobs first and then kind of make estimates as you see fit, you can always convert a job into an estimate. Now, estimates on jobs, this is what I was getting at. Here's the improvement that you all have been asking for. So really excited to show you all this. I know there's a lot here, but we'll just kind of hit on some of the highlights. Really, the point of the estimates on jobs is that if you are out there on a job, say for a service call, or you're already working on something, I'm out here installing a water heater, and customer was nice enough to let me go into the bathroom, and I realize the toilet isn't working. Okay, well, now I can go ahead and I can, while I'm using the bathroom, go ahead and write up actually an estimate right there on the job, and I can present it to them and say, hey, look. I see some other work that needs to be done here. How about I go ahead and write you up an estimate and give you a quote? And so we've gone ahead and done that. We made it a little bit more streamlined because, again, as I said in the past, I would already be out there doing a job. And if I was going to give them an estimate, I would have to either create a new estimate from scratch, which would convert to another job, or I would have to take the job that I'm currently working on and convert it to an estimate. So I'm sure a couple of you are like, what is he talking about? That sounds terrible. Yes, it does. That is why we did this. So for these estimates, again, you could be on the job and create these estimates on the fly. You also do have the ability to send them out to customers. So if they do need to think about it, or you do have the ability to present it to them. So a couple of other things. Estimates created on a job will not create a new entry on your calendar view. We've had a lot of feedback of people when they start doing these conversions before that it was eating up a lot of space on the calendar. And now what we've just how it's designed is that if we're already out there on a job, technically we're already out there doing an estimate if we're writing up the estimate on the fly. So that way it recognizes that this job has the estimate in it, so we are not blocking up too much time on the schedule, making it a little easier on our dispatchers. They also allow techs to track the time on the original job without any disturbances. So as I mentioned before, and as most of you are probably familiar with our estimates, they have their own time tracking. Well, now if we're out on a job and we have our time tracking going, again, because we're not creating a whole new estimate that has like its own date and time, the time tracking just still keeps going and it doesn't affect our estimates whatsoever. Then last thing is the feature is ideal for when you need to schedule diagnostic and service call visits with your customers to assess their problems before presenting them with options. So this brings up a particular case that I was working with not too long ago, and they do something what is called job checks. And if any of you were here for last week's pipeline, I did mention this because I had a column in mine as I was helping them called job checks. So the way they optimized it is that we're going to go ahead and say, it's a job check just for us to go on out there and see what is the work that needs to be done. I've worked with some places that even have like just a service call fee of essentially, we need to get paid for just simply going out there. So now you have a job with that payment on it. You can go on out there. Essentially, you could charge your customer for that amount, or you can write them up an estimate and add that to the estimate so that when we have our full job, it will have our initial job check fee and all of the line items from our estimate. So, another thing with those estimates on jobs is now, of course, we have some kind of reporting for it. So we have estimates on jobs reporting. And what you'll be able to see in here is one, a job count, which is similar to all of our reports where you can see how many jobs over a period of time that you set. Estimates created on jobs. So if I'm looking at, the last 45 days, and I can see there was, 30 jobs within those last 45 days. I can also see how many estimates were created on those jobs during that time period. With that, with all of those estimates being created with those job numbers, I can now start to see a conversion rate of how many of those estimates converted into jobs and I collected money on. There's also the one value. So if we do get that approval, we can kind of lock in that we're going to be getting this amount of revenue at some point, but we still need to set up an appointment with them. And this all leads into what I was talking about with our conversion rate. So we can see how many jobs were reached out, how many jobs we had available, and how many actually we completed and received some revenue on it. As with all other reports, we do have all the same filters. So there is a date range filter, week to date, month to date, year to date, custom date, however you want to do it. There is also the filter for diagnostic job types. We've gone ahead and put that in here because that's ideally what we believe that this tool is best used for. You will see when I pull up the report, that's kind of one of the things that I take off just because I don't have diagnostic as one of my job types, but it is there if you want to use it. You can also pull it by employee. So we're going to see when I pull up mine, all of my employees. And again, we will see all of this information that is here available on the report. So enough of me talking and showing slides. Let's go ahead and dive into the account. We're going to start kind of at square one, just how we did with the slideshow here. So first thing that I always lead everybody to when it comes to estimates is the account settings. And if we scroll down, there is going to be an option for estimates. I think my little marker is gone, so let me get that back. All right, so estimates right here. When we click on that, there's the option for customer view right there. So this is what I was talking about when you are setting up your defaults. As you can see, this is the preview that the customer is going to see. And on the right-hand side over here is where we can start making those changes. So do I want to include the date I sent the estimate? Sure. Maybe I don't. Then there's also service date. So the actual date of going out there to perform the estimate. That's if you are actually doing those kinds of estimates. As I've mentioned before on our previous sessions, is that you can always write up an estimate without scheduling it. You can always write one up and just simply send it out. Here is the view format that I was talking about. So as of right now, mine is optimized for the envelope, which would go ahead and put all of my company information right up here. But if I want it to be more email automized, this is how it's going to look. You can always go back and forth between the two. Business and customer, that's all of this information over here, as well as all the information over here. So if we don't want to show the business name, I don't know why we would want to do that, but we can certainly do that. And we could, as I mentioned, include the technician name. So right here, service completed by that technician. Customer display name, customer company name. So if you do deal with those commercial accounts that have a lot of different contacts, you can say, you know, Ted over here is my main contact. So for, Starsky Corporations, we're going to go ahead and have Ted be the display name. For the services, as I was discussing, is that you do have the ability to customize what you want to be seen for or shown to your customer. I have worked with some people, as I mentioned, that just want to have the subtotal, so they can go ahead and remove all of these options and just simply give the customer a subtotal. Mostly what I typically see is usually like the name, the description, probably the quantity. I usually don't see too many people put unit price, but obviously if that's for your business, don't let me stop you. All right, and then down below, same thing for materials. For materials, we can go ahead and do the same thing if we want to have all that information, or do we just want to have a subtotal? I've also talked to some people that just don't want to show their materials to their customers. So for that, you can even remove the whole materials part altogether, but there still will be a subtotal if you do put prices for those materials. So then a couple of other defaults for estimates while we're here is that above the customer view, there is a spot for your estimate defaults where you can set a default expiration date. So if you are a company that decides to have 30 days, you can really customize it any way you want. I would say most companies I deal with are like 30, 60, or 90 days. So after 30 days, that will go ahead and expire the estimate. So the customer will no longer be able to approve or decline it. We'll have to either reach out to them or, create a new one or just cut our losses. There is also the option for approving options, which, as we talked about, and we'll take a look at a little later too, is that do we want customers to have the ability, if we offer them options, can they select multiple options or can they only select one? The choice is yours. And again, on it, you can change this on a case-by-case basis. So if you are doing something like a good, better, best, you can just change it for that time to be one option and not have to, go into your defaults and change it every time. The other thing on here that I'll show while we're here is for emails and SMS. I'm sure we're all familiar whenever we send out a estimate, either via email or via text, that there is a screen that pops up with an email already produced or with a text message already produced as well. In here, this is where you can go ahead and create your own. We give everybody this as the default. So if you do want to, put a little personal touch on this, you can certainly go ahead and do that, and that will set up the default for all future estimates that are being sent. All right, so there's that part. Let's go on in and take a look at the schedule and what we're all here for, those new estimates on jobs. So let's take a look at this job over here. So as we can see, this job is pretty much already in progress. It already has an appointment. We can even say, yeah, the person's already out there and they're working. And again, working on the floors, and then all of a sudden they see, there's a stair that's broken and they can go ahead and fix that. So on all of your jobs, you do have now a spot for estimates. And when we click the estimate button here, as you can see, it pulls up an estimate. And as we mentioned earlier, it doesn't need to be put on the schedule because essentially we're already on the job site. We don't have to say we're on our way because again, we're already on the job site. So nothing too new here outside of just simply, putting in the information for your estimate. So I'm going to say, AC service call. All right. And again, for just to kind of touch back on with the options, for those that need a refresher, up here at the top within the web app is where we can go ahead and add an additional option. So if we want to do good, better, best, whatever it's going to be, there is also the ability with these three dots right here, if they kind of go away when I pull up my pointer, but that's where we can go ahead and copy all of this estimate over to a new option, or we can copy it over to a brand new estimate if we want to do that. Again, just kind of, I'm going to copy this to a new option. And maybe I'll throw one more service on here. Okay, so now that we have multiple options, kind of just a little bit of refresher on that sales proposal tool is that when we have multiple options, there is the present button right here. In the mobile app, it's at the top of the screen when they are looking at the estimates. It does say present. And when we do, we'll be able to flip our phone or tablet around and present it to the customer, just like the old sales proposal tool. So that way the customer can view each option right there with your estimator or your technician. Take a look even, further into each particular option, and they can approve right there on the spot, or we can go ahead and send it off if they need to. So I'm going to just go ahead and approve this one because maybe I'm talking to the customer and they say, yeah, whatever, run it, let's go. So there we're going to go ahead and approve it, and we'll copy to a job. So this is a question that did come up. We're going to address this a little later. But when we copy a estimate to a job that is already at a job site, as you can see, it asks which one do we want to copy over. This is the one that the customer approved. And we want it to either copy to the job that we are currently on, or we want it to a copy to a new job. So since we're already at the job site and we're already going to knock this out, maybe we'll just copy it to this job. That this particular customer is on a service agreement discount. So it is asking, do I want to apply the discount to that particular service or not? And I'm going to say no. So now when we look back at the job, we can see here that there are two estimates. They were created on this job. Both of them were approved by the customer. And as we scroll down, we can see all of that, all of the options that were on those estimates now onto the job and onto the work order. Pretty much is what's going to be on the invoice when we're ready to send it out. So that's really the functionality of the invoices, or I'm sorry, the estimates on invoice. One thing we can touch on is converting a job back to an estimate for the people that choose it to do it this way. Let's go ahead and start with maybe a fresh new job. Let's go with this one. All right, so this time we're going to say, all right, I'm already at the job site, already working. And let's go ahead. I'm going to add my service call. And the customer says, hey, I might need some more time to think about it, or maybe we're going to actually install a water heater. And, $2,000 in there. So now what we do have the ability to do is maybe the customer's like, I kind of want to think about that a little bit. We do have a place if people recall where the segments were. Let's go ahead. Oh, I think it's because we have multiple options up here. So if we go to more, there is the copy to new job. Or wait, let me back up. Let me start from scratch here because this is getting a little too confusing up here. All right. Let's see. Okay. All right, so now we have our option here. There we go. When we hit that gear and wrench icon, there is the same one that's in the mobile app at the top. And as you can see now, because this is just one work order, there are no other estimates attached to this particular work order, that I can go ahead and convert this work order into an estimate. All right, and as we can see, it pulls up the estimate view right here. It looks just like it would with any normal estimate. We do have the ability to create our options or not. Let's go ahead and say that it's going to be approved. And when we're ready to copy to the job, it's going to go ahead and create a new job for us because essentially we took a work order, turned it into an estimate, turned it back into a job. There's the estimate right there that was approved. So there's our job number, and we have all of that information available to us. And the last thing we'll touch on, so that was estimates on the jobs. And so next is talking about the reporting of estimates on jobs. So if we go on up to our reporting tab, we'll be able to see up in jobs, it is estimates on jobs right here. And what that'll do, as I mentioned earlier, there's the filter for the job type is diagnostic. I'm not using that, so I'm just going to delete it. So completed work from the last 45 days, status is completed. So as I scroll down, I can see here that Luke had 75 jobs in the last 45 days. 5 estimates were created on those jobs, and 3 of those estimates were won. And we can see the money that we were supposed to win, and we can see what that conversion rate is going to be for our particular employee. So all the information that I mentioned earlier, our job count, estimates created on those jobs, how many of those estimates were won, and what those conversion rates are. If you want, you can always add more information from the edit columns if you want to build your report in any other way that you like it. Again, I would say take a look at our session on reporting if you want some more information about the reporting aspect of it. But really, today just kind of wanted to show you the new jobs on estimates report. We did talk about the estimates reports on our reporting session, but I'll just touch on these since we're talking about estimates anyway. For estimate reporting, really what we have in here is your conversions. So we can look at conversions by date, conversions by employee. We even have a new report here so we can see all of the open estimates that are assigned to specific employees. So that way we can have discussions about, are you reaching out to your customers and trying to close these? Like, what's going on here? And there's also, we can look at those conversions by either business unit, job type, or lead source, which most of our reports are built for. So I'm sure most of you are very familiar with it. So with all of that, I think we kind of covered just about everything that's new with the estimates, touched on some old things regarding estimates. So would definitely love to open the floor to any questions. I can see that there's a couple that came in through the chat, so I'm going to start there. Can an estimate created on a job be moved to a new job if a deposit is taken on the original job? Um, so yes, because deposits are you always take deposits on jobs. And so if the estimate already has, if you're going to say that there is a deposit for this particular estimate, then you'll be able to take the take the deposit on the job, and you can create a new estimate in that job so that those estimates are together and you are collecting your deposits. If you did want to move it to a new job, as you noticed when I approved the estimate and told it to copy it to a job, it asked me if I wanted to copy it to a new job or to the current job. So you do have some room to decide which one you want. So I hope that answers your question, Alex. If not, throw something up at the chat and we'll revisit it when I get through some of these other ones. Dusty, I don't have the options tab. How can I get access? The estimates on jobs, I'm assuming that's the one you're looking for. I don't have options tab. Oh, at the top. If you don't have that, Dusty, I would probably, I know that they're on here, and they should be released to everybody as far as I know. So if you don't have it, I would maybe recommend you reach out to our chat team, get yourself scheduled with somebody from my team on the support team so we could do a support call and see if there's anything that we need to turn on or if there's anything wrong with your particular system. Um, okay, what is the date on your recording on reports?
I will drop that right now.
Okay. Can you convert estimate to invoice, Jennifer? So yes, I mean that's pretty much what the program's designed for. So when you have your estimate and you're ready to turn it into an invoice or a job/work order, you just simply hit copy to job. So I think maybe there's just kind of getting used to the language we use around here. Again, I always say is that when we convert an estimate to a job, we are essentially converting it to a job/work order. But if you do want to go ahead, and I don't call it an invoice until we actually send out the invoice. So if you have an estimate, convert it to a job, and just simply want to send off an invoice, you can certainly do that. But copy to job is how you will turn it into a job/work order or invoice. Okay, I don't see any others that came in, so I'm going to go over to the ones that were given to us beforehand. Certainly, if I did not answer your question or if you have more, please put it in the chat. I'd be happy to do further explanation and answer any other questions. So the first one that we had prepared is from Derek. Why don't approved estimates go to unscheduled jobs? We frequently overlooked approved estimates. Okay, that is a good question. I get this all the time. So the reason we have designed it so that you actually have to convert the estimate to a job is just simply because we want it to be more accurate for your reporting. Because, we may get an approval from somebody and who knows, maybe, an hour later they decide that they don't want to do it. And nothing's been signed. Like there's lots of nuance that goes into it. And so that's why we really said it that when you have an approved estimate, you do need to be the one that says copy it to a job. Because then that way, when you do copy it to a job, you also have the flexibility of being able to, depending on when you did it, you can go ahead and talk to the customer right then and there and decide when you want to start actually doing the job. So we have been getting requests that people prefer that when an estimate is approved, it just automatically becomes a job. But between a lot of the feedback we've gotten it both sides, and mostly this is what we're doing is what most people seem to like. Next question from Zachary. Giving estimates and after follow-up, we know they aren't moving. Is there a way for us to decline estimates so they won't show up as awaiting approval anymore? All right, so Zachary, yes, you can. So with that, I'll just go ahead and share my screen again. And if we are looking at a particular estimate, let's one up. Just going to pull up this one here that's unscheduled. Now, I always tell everybody, and I mentioned on when we did the full office staff training, is that there's this approval button right here on the web portal. I have not seen it in the mobile app. I don't believe you have the capability to do this in the mobile app, but on the web portal, there is the approval button right here. And if your expiration date has gone by and you don't have expiration date set up, you can always decline on behalf of the customer. You can also always approve on behalf of the customer. But I need to make it very clear here is that this is literally, I think, the one thing in Housecall that you cannot undo. Everything else in the system, you do something, you can just about undo it. But if we are going to decline it, you cannot undo this action. So if you make a mistake, you will have to create a whole new estimate. All right, next question is from Jackie. Builder is asking us to create estimates broken down by room with a subtotal for each room. Is there a way to do this in HCP? I am so glad you asked, Jackie, because that is exactly what we went over today. So what you can do is that you can start the job, have all of your workforce out there already working on things, and if the builder wants to see an estimate room by room by room, you can go ahead and have that job. You can create one estimate as we did earlier when we were just working on a job. So let's go to this job right here. And we want an estimate of each room. So we'll go ahead and say, let's add an estimate. And at the top, instead of option 1, we can go ahead and say, dining room. We can create another option and call that one, bedroom or master bedroom. So you can literally go on and on and on and on with this. We did this quickly just by simply hitting the estimate button. It did create one for us, but we've gone ahead and started to create more estimate options. I do have it set up so my customer can select multiple options. So Jackie, something you might want to play with a little bit, but yes, the answer is yes. You can always create multiple estimates for each particular room and keep it all connected to one particular job. Next question, Andrew, is there a way to automate an email or text message that would notify the recipient their estimate with us is expiring? So I was thinking about this earlier and trying to think of, I did come up with a way that you can do this. We don't necessarily have a specific feature that is tied to a message going out when an estimate is expiring. For this, unfortunately, you will need, I wouldn't say unfortunately, but you will need the pipeline for this. You can shoot off a text message on your own without the pipeline with your inbox if you do want to kind of set up some kind of way to keep track of your estimates. But honestly, with the pipeline, it's probably the best and the easiest way to do this. Again, check our session last week. We went through all of this in its entirety. But to answer your question, how I would do this is that I would create an automation within my estimates because I have Housecall that will reach out to my customer with a text message and an email at a frequency. So the first one is that it's the first day after I send off my estimate and I'm waiting on an approval. The next one is 5 days. And so then that's 6 days have gone by, 2 text messages, 2 emails have gone out, and then 3 days after that. So now we're looking at 9 days past the day I sent it out. So if you want to, you really could set this up to be, I want it to go out the day after I send it to them. maybe 15 days after that first reminder, and then another 14 days. And then that way you have that reminder, and you can also customize that email or text message. So you can say, hey, you know what? You're coming up on it's day 58 of 60 days. Like, you have 2 days left to approve this or not. So, Andrew, that's how I would do it. It is possible, but you do need the pipeline. All right, I think I saw another question pop up in here. Alex, I have one job where created the estimate, I collected the deposit and moved the job to a new job number. The deposit is not showing up. Where did I make the error? Alex, I would honestly say without seeing your screen and working through this one-on-one, I I don't know how much I can really help you here because I don't know exactly what you did. What I would recommend is setting up one of those support calls so we can go ahead and troubleshoot this and, spend some time one-on-one, make sure you're doing the process correctly. I will go ahead here and post in our chat. Um,
Yeah, and anyone who's on a Max account for sure, you can get that direct one-on-one call, that coaching call.
That is correct. I just want to make sure I got the right link here. One second, I gotta just find it really quick. But that's really all I've got.
I'm just checking our Facebook thread. I don't see any other questions right now, but if you're a pro watching this later, you're watching the recording, feel free to drop it in the Facebook thread and we will get back to you as soon as we can. This recording will also be up on YouTube very shortly, so if you're catching it there, same thing.
Um, I did find it, so I'm just gonna quickly post it.
So
There is the link. So that link that I just posted, that all allows you to reach out, get set up an appointment with our support team. That way, as in Alex's case, we may need to take a little deeper dive. But yeah, I guess it's one of the bonuses of showing up to Power Hour is you guys get that exclusive link right there. So yeah, if something comes up, certainly feel free to book a meeting with us.
definitely, I'm gonna drop this too in the Facebook thread as well. Good deal. Oh, wait, I can't go it that way. That's okay. If you're interested in that on Facebook, let us know. We'll connect with you. Not able to copy that link from Zoom, unfortunately. Um, I did want to also point out I dropped this in our Zoom chat. I don't think I dropped it in Facebook, but we're coming up on the end of the year. We only have 4 more sessions before we close out the year. Next week, we're going to be talking over the App Store and just some of the common integrations, things that a lot of our pros use, and why they might be beneficial for you. And then after the Thanksgiving break, Jaden Skriner is going to join us on December 5th. You might be familiar with him. He's led really all of our QuickBooks integration trainings over the last few years. He does the Money Mastery series with me. So he'll be here in a couple of weeks and we'll talk about the integration. I know there's a lot of questions in the Facebook group, a lot of folks having trouble. So bring your questions. We'll try to get through as many of them as we can. And then a couple more things after that. But if there's anything else that we can cover, anything else that you're interested in us covering soon, let us know. And otherwise, we'll see everyone back here next week.
Sounds good. See you all then.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.